Hello and welcome to this introduction to the Dutch language course Elementary 1. 7 weeks from now you will be able to speak Dutch. This introduction helps you to be successful in this course. If you know how it works, it will be more effective. We will start with some information about the Delft learning method. Then I will give you tips about how to study and how to prepare for the classes. After that, we will look at what will happen during the classes and what is expected from you. I will end this presentation with some essential practical information. Let us look at the Delft method for language learning. The Delft method was developed by TU Delft and is still updated regularly. Books and online materials are published by Boom publishers. This learning method differs from many other methods at some important points, and that's why this introduction is so important in order for you to make a good start. First of all, it's a natural method. You learn the language in a natural way, inspired by the way children learn their mother tongue. This means a language environment with a lot of listening and with gradual development of speaking, from single words via small sentences and ending with complete sentences. Secondly, it's unconventional. The learning process will probably be completely different from what you are used to when learning a new language in the past. And then it will be speedy. In 7 weeks, you will be able to talk about everyday subjects like your house, time, your weekend, family, transportation, the doctor, travel, education, and so on. It's hard to imagine now, but it will be reality in a few weeks, if you follow the Delft method system. A central characteristic of the Delft method is that it focuses on language skills, speaking and listening, and less on knowledge about grammar rules. Did your mother teach you word order rules when you were a baby? Of course, we will pay attention to language constructions during this course, but always in context of a meaningful text. You will learn the words and the constructions by doing, while you read, listen, and speak. Babies learn words, sentences, pronunciation because they hear their parents, brothers, sisters, and other people in their environment all the time. Perhaps they don't speak yet, but they are already processing what they hear. And they are really eager to distinguish sounds and find their meaning. We call this language input. It's an essential part of the language learning process. Children have a talent for input processing when they learn the language, and they will be successful. Adults need some help. That's why the Delft method will guide you through the processing part. Children start with speaking single words, mama, eat, and then 2 words, drink milk, and so on, as if they are playing with Lego blocks. They first put together 2 or 3 blocks and later they build a complete house. And from the very beginning it's a joy to play. And that is how they and you also develop their language. At this point you don't want complex puzzles, or in language learning, complex grammar rules to start with. No, that would be a guarantee for frustration. If you want to play with pleasure, you need a lot of blocks or words, and that's why the Delft method will teach you a lot of them. And it offers the most frequent ones, so they are very useful from the beginning. You will learn 100 to 150 new words per week. As I said before, the Delft method will help you process the language input in several ways. By reading, listening, repeating out loud, and by combinations of these activities. When listening to the language of your brain first looks for meaning. What do the words mean? What is someone wanting to say? Therefore, we will be focusing on meaning first. And only after that, your working memory has room for form issues. Finally, in order to remember words, you need to hear or see them at least 6 or 7 times. And this is why repetition is so important. Repetition also helps you developing your grammar knowledge. Repetition reveals gradually the hidden constructions in the language, and you make them your own. This was our philosophy. Now, what does this mean for this language course? As mentioned before, input is important. But if one says input, there must be output too. Let's see how these two relate. The book and the online materials help you to get familiar with new words and constructions. You do this on your own. It is homework or preparation. When you have finished that, you will be able and ready for the output phase, or to put it simple, speaking in a conversation. And this will happen during the online classes. Good preparation is essential for learning and for participation in the online class. But how do you know what is enough? And how do you know that your participation in class is sufficient? If you keep in mind a few basic goals, you should be able to keep the right track. In order to be successful in preparation and in the online conversation, you have to understand the spoken text in detail, without help, and be able to use the new words and structures in the conversation. Don't be satisfied too quickly. Learning a language is not difficult, but it takes effort and time. You need at least 2 hours to really learn a text. Depending on your language background, it can be up to 3 hours. In total, you need about 10 hours per week. This is including the classes. Let us look at the preparation in more detail. The central element in the Delft method are the texts. There are about 20 texts per course level. The length of a text is about 1 page in the book. The subject can be something like family, food, housing, etc. Every new text contains 50 new words. By learning the text, you learn the words in their context. You listen to the pronunciation, you see the spelling, and you get an idea of their position in the sentence. In order to help you with all these aspects, the Delft method guides you through 4 different learning steps. In the first step, you listen to the text, sentence by sentence, and you read the text at the same time. You see and hear the relation between pronunciation and spelling. As the text is paused, you can pronounce the sentences yourself and compare your pronunciation with the model. You can see the translation of all words by clicking on them. In certain sentences, there is also a link to grammar explanation. After analyzing the text in this step 1, you go to step 2. Again, you listen and read along, but without pauses this time. Do this a few times until you are sure you understand the whole text. Then go to step 3. Now the written text is gone. You have to listen, and again, repeat out loud and pronounce all sentences. It's important to repeat this until you are able to do it fluently. Now comes step 4. You just listen to a spoken text without any help. No pauses, no translations, nothing. And that was your goal for the input phase. You started with a lot of help, and now you can do it on your own. Finally, you can check whether you were successful by doing the online tests and the exercises, and I'll tell you more about that later. This is what the steps look like in the Delft Method online learning material. Step 1. Understand and analyze. Click on the words to see the translations and hear the pronunciation of a single word. Click on the speaker symbol to hear the sentence. Click on the microphone symbol to record yourself and click on the headphone symbol to listen to yourself. Step 2. Understand the written text and spoken text. Click the play button to start listening. Step 3. Listen and pronounce. Click on the play button to start listening and use the forward button to go to the next sentence. Do you want to cheat and see the text? Use the reveal button. Be aware that this might be a sign that you didn't do step 1 and 2 well enough. Step 4. Understand a spoken text. You're nearly there. Click on play and listen. Now it's time for the tests. There are 2 tests, a gaten test or gap filling test and a luistertekst or listening test. The gap filling test is a copy of the text you just learned, with words missing. After every 6 words there is a gap. What you have to do is simple. fill in the correct word. There is also a gap-filling text in the book. Read it out loud and fill in the word by speaking it. If you can do this without too much hesitation, you pass. If you can't, you have to study more. Do not write the correct words here in the book, otherwise you cannot use it again. The listening text is a kind of dictation. You will hear 10 sentences from the text. After that, you hear the sentences one by one. Again, what you have to do is very simple. If you studied well, write down the sentences. You pass if at least 80% of the words is spelled correctly. Be aware that the system only allows you to do this test once, so learn well before you start with it. Failing for the test is an indication that you should study more. Now you understand the words, you understand the texts, and you can pronounce the words. It's time to spend some time on constructions and grammar by doing the exercises. Fill in the words, check the explanation by clicking on the grammar links, and look at the feedback if you make a mistake. Finally, here are the golden rules of the preparation phase. Repeat a step until you feel confident. Go to the next step if you master the previous step. Only then. And do this for every step. And if you get stuck, move to the beginning and start again. Now let's go to a real-life demo of the system. This is the website of the Delft Method, and I choose lesson 1. And here you see leren, learning, toets, test, oefenen, exercise. And here are the 4 learning steps.
Les 1. Hoe heet je?
Les 1. Hoe heet je?
Hallo, ik ben Inge.
Hallo, ik ben Inge.
Heet. Ben.
Here you see the translation.
Docent.
Docent is teacher.
Hoe.
Les 1. Hoe heet je?
Les 1. Hoe heet je? Les 1. Hoe heet je? And this is the way to repeat and compare
Les 1.
yourself.
Hoe heet je?
Les 1. Hoe heet je? With the model. Step 2. Here you see only one sentence. We start.
Les 1. Hoe heet je?
Hallo, ik ben Inge. Mijn naam is Inge van Dijk. Ik ben de docent.
So you can read and you can listen. Step 3. Now the text is gone and you can only listen, but there are pauses.
Les 1. Hoe heet je?
Les 1. Hoe heet je? Les 1. Hoe heet je? Les 1. Hoe heet je?
Les 1. Hoe heet je?
Oh, that's okay. And go to the next one.
Hallo, ik ben Inge.
Hallo, ik ben...
Hallo, ik ben Inge.
Hallo, Ik ben Inge. And if you don't know what the spelling is again, then you can see and hide it again. Step 4. No text, no pauses. Only listen.
Les 1. Hoe heet je?
Hallo, ik ben Inge. Mijn naam is Inge.
And so on. Test. Here you see the gap filling test. And that's where you write the correct words. The listening test. If you start here, then you get your dictation. And here is the exercise. Fill in the correct word. And if you make a mistake, you get feedback. Let's look at the online classes now. Before the class starts, it's a good idea to do a kind of warming up. Take your book and go to the section Geef antwoord, which we'll find after each text. Answer these questions. Another idea is to summarize the text in your own words, preferably out loud. If there are people who speak Dutch around, use them and speak about the text. And finally, play with the text. Change the subject, change words, change the order, change the tense, and thus become flexible. Now the class starts. Everyone is there on time, of course. The teacher starts the conversation, sometimes asking a question to someone in particular, but mostly to the whole group. Don't be shy. It's not necessary to wait for your turn. You can start speaking if you want to contribute to the conversation. And keep in mind, while others speak, you are not passive. You are listening and you are thinking about a reaction to what others are saying. You make your own sentences in your mind. The lesson should look like a normal conversation, although of course sometimes the teacher will interfere with feedback on pronunciation, grammar or use of words. Here are some other facts and issues concerning the conversation classes. Conversations are about the topics of the text. They are in Dutch from day one. There is always time for your questions on words and grammar at the end of a lesson. The lessons last 40 minutes. And again, good preparation is essential. Keep in mind, the conversations are always fun and interesting. It's essential that you participate always. Don't be passive, because grading, final grading, will be mainly based on speaking skills. And last but not least, attendance is obligatory. This also influences your final grade. During this course there will be 2 writing assignments. You will write a small text about the subject of the text you studied that day. What you write has to be related strictly to the questions in the assignment. You will receive an assignment right after the conversation class. Write your text and send it back. You have 30 minutes to do this, and the dates for the writing assignments will be published in the course schedule that will be sent to you by our secretary later this week. Please note that the result of the writing assignment will also be a part of the final grade. To conclude the instruction about how to study, here are some do's and don'ts. Put the text under the microscope Understanding is not enough. Have attention for form as well. Be a critical analyst of the Dutch language. Use all senses simultaneously. Read, listen and speak. The book and the online materials help you with that. Study actively. Use the words. Make your own sentences. Be creative. Don't be afraid to speak or to make mistakes. You've only just begun to learn a new language. Do not fill in the gaps in the book. You would spoil this exercise and you cannot use it again for this purpose, because it's a very useful tool for repetition later on in the course. Do not write translations in the text. If you do so, you use knowledge about your own language when reading the text to understand it. But you already know your language. You're learning Dutch. Do not learn words from a list, but in context. This way you learn how they behave in a sentence. This helps you to put together your own sentences. Do not copy the text without listening. Copying the whole text on paper is very time-consuming and not very effective. Do not learn the text by heart. It might happen accidentally, though, but it's not your goal. It's your goal to build your own sentences. We have nearly come to the end of this introduction video. We conclude with some practical information. Buy the textbook, edition 5, that comes with access to the online materials. You can buy the book in a bookstore, for example Paagman in Delft, or the bookstore at the Faculty of Architecture. It's also possible to buy it online from the publisher www.nt2school.nl or other online stores like bol.com. It is not allowed to use copies. There is also an exercise book and a telephone app. You don't have to buy these. We are not going to use them during the course. You will need the Zoom online meeting application for the online classes. Make sure you download it on your device before the course starts. Our secretary will send you an email with an invitation. We advise you to use a laptop or a desktop computer. That works best. And even more important, make sure you have a headset that works well. So test it before you come to class. Needless to say that you should be there on time. You can enter the Zoom waiting room before the teacher will admit you to class. So if you come 5 minutes early, that would be perfect. What is going to happen in the coming days? Today you are watching this introduction video. On Tuesday there will be a question and answer session at 5 p.m. Here you can ask questions about the contents and the organization of your course. Attendance is recommended but not obligatory. You will find the Zoom link in the email from the secretary. If you are a student, you have to enroll in the group of your choice on Thursday through Brightspace. Go to WM1115TU Dutch Elementary 1. The schedules of the different groups will be published before 11 p.m. in an announcement in the Brightspace module. At 11 o'clock precisely, all groups will be open for enrollment. Be on time because the groups can be very popular. If you don't find a place in the group, you can put yourself on a waiting list. Sometimes there will be extra places if others don't show up. If there are no places, you will have a guaranteed place in the next quarter. If you are not a student, you are already enrolled in the group of your choice. During the coming days, you can start learning the first 2 lessons in order to be well prepared for the first lesson. If you don't have the book yet, you can use the free online lessons. See the link, or the free trial app. It's available for both Apple and Android devices. Search for Delft Method in the App Store. It is wise to wait with buying the book until you are sure you have a place in the group. And finally, here is your first lesson, next Monday or Tuesday. The course begins. Let us know by email if you can't attend the class, otherwise your place could be given to someone on the waiting list, so that's important. During the coming days you will receive your course schedule with all the impractical information you need. For example, names and email addresses of the teachers. If you have to skip a lesson, then you have to inform them by email. Also send an email to the secretary. It also contains all the homework planning, lesson schedules, and the dates for the writing assignments. This schedule is your guide and companion during the whole course. If you want to read more about studying with the Delft Method, please go to our website, click FAQ and How to Study. I hope to see you in class soon. Tot ziens!